off all the parking lots that'll be there.
All right, and then, we'll demolish everything that's left, and then we do what I call cleanup on the back end. If you want to advance one more slide, and that's parking. And you have your bus loops and your parent pickup, and student parking, teacher parking. Bus garage is still here. I'd like to do away with this particular bus garage and relocate it on the elementary site, and I'll show you that in just a minute. Because it's pretty tight on this site, even after everything's said and done and cleaned up, and it's turning into a really beautiful school. I still don't think there's a lot of room for additional wings if the school needs to grow, or if you need additional practice field space or whatever. There's just not a whole lot left over, so I'd like to make this space available at some point.
Yeah, there will be no more football practice field. That's going away.
Yeah.
I know you guys have done your due diligence, and I mean, I know you have now your school campus laid out, but there's a drain pipe that comes from the Ag Center all the way out to that road that goes right there at the school.
Sure is. Greg, you want to talk about that?
Yes, we are very much aware of that. It is being relocated, put underground in pipe and relocated around the gym,
It's about to
back
say you're
out.
running it around the backside, right?
Yep, we're picking it up out before it gets to the CTE building, putting it underground and taking it all the way around.
Because I mean, when I was in school there, that was a swamp. Because that swamp that's right there on the other side of the baseball field connected to the swamp that's on Lake Crescent. And when they built Winn-Dixie, they hauled all the dirt in there where the football field is, where the practice field is. So just pay real close to your geotech in there, because that's some very unsuitable ground, and that two-story building's gone.
Yes, you're absolutely.
Greg, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that is essentially how we were able to do away with the, if you go back up to the first slide up here of the existing current facility. Where's that new building, is it?
Right there where that.
Where you
Yep,
were.
yep.
Right there. And, that building, DOE would have said, based on the age of the building, we had to
Correct.
and they let us do away with it. And since we're spending their money, our contribution doesn't change. We
Sure.
wanted to do what we wanted, as much new stuff as we could get. But because of the, Greg, you want to pick it up there, the condition of the soil?
Those buildings right there on that drop off have differential settlement in them. They're
Yes, sir.
cracking
That's-
the inside pretty bad, and that's the reason DOE is allowing us to tear those down and rebuild. So we've already had some soil borings done around those buildings. We're having additional soil borings done out in the practice field. So we're very much aware of what we have to have there and the field, hauling some off and putting the new in to get it right.
I just want to make sure that we don't end up in the same, I mean, I knew that STEM building was falling apart. I just didn't want to spend this money in that.
is.
20 years from now, that two-story building, now that one falling apart, the same way that new one is.
It needs an exceptional foundation.
Yes, sir. Agree 100%.
All right, so that's the high school. This is the Palaca Elementary A school. It's a 1,105 student station for pre-K through sixth grade. It's approximately 169,000 gross square feet as it stands or stood back then. It is located at the former E.H. Miller School on Horseman Club Road. Let's see where we are here. We're deep into the schematic designs here as well. We're about at the same pace, except for we have schematic designs for. Greg, you want to talk about everything we do?
Yeah, I was going to say, we actually have completed design development documents there, and we are currently reviewing them as we speak. So it is well ahead of the high school project. So our focus now is to get the demolition plans completed, and they have been completed, and to the contractor, and he's pricing up the demolition of the existing buildings there.
So groundbreaking for this particular school will be actually demolition, which is October 30th this year. And then the construction manager, sir.
Just a question. We, about 3 meetings ago, got these summaries, one-page summaries on our schools, the two that we review over. Are we gonna get them every meeting as we discussed? Because it has basically what you've got up there, but it's handed to us on a piece of paper.
You mean the one with the picture,
Yes,
the
I'm sorry.
timeline? Let me show Tom.
At first, I can't read that.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah, Greg, they're talking about the one pager you did for the last BOC meeting. We'll let you know when we have these in the future, and if you don't mind, providing us one of those for each meeting, we'll be glad to run copies for them for distribution.
They're one pagers.
So if you could just email it to Ashley, you don't have to hand anything off.
And-
Yep, that's the intent. This one today caught me off guard.
And this says the GPM will be available on, which we're interested on, just before Christmas, December 22nd. What does that one say?
Guaranteed maximum pricing.
What day?
Oh, what date? January 5th.
So it's split just a little bit.
Yeah.
Since we were last.
Right here. Sit there.
So we're starting demolition, we don't know how much it costs yet,
Here?
for this school?
No, we don't know what it costs till the subcontractor bids come in.
We know it has to be.
We're starting demolition October
We,
3rd.
we have to demolish the buildings before we can build either way.
But you can't use the.
We can get a price for demolition without getting the price for the entire building.
Is there
Sheriff's Department
demolition?
did a pretty good job of demolishing with bomb trading the other day.
Is
Believe me,
demolition
my
gonna
dog-
be part of the cost? It will be.
All right, so let's take a look at what the school actually, looks like. So this is Horseman Club Road, and this is Davis Lake Road coming back here. We intersect down here somewhere.
I don't know if any situation that is correct. That it be
Or
part of-
will be part of it. Makes sense.
All right, and so the school currently faces Horseman Club Road this way. This is the existing school, and this pretty much is the existing site, this rectangle. All right, so this is an overlay, and it's not completely to scale, the property that you just looked at, but it orients the same way. The main office is up front, the media center, and the school has one big corridor that runs right down the middle of it, and then there's, classroom wings off to each side. But the main office, the media center, and then these are ESC type classroom areas. And then cafeteria and multipurpose room, are back here, it's the cafeteria. And then you have, it'll be the, intermediate classrooms towards the front, and then the more primary classrooms towards the back. Or did I mix those up, Greg?
So the primary are more on the, as you're looking at the front, the left. The primary wings are on the top of the drawing as you're looking at it. Intermediate are on the bottom. Over on the same side is the gym.
Gotcha, gotcha. So primary is all on one side. This
Correct.
particular school, okay.
Are some of those walls?
And then this is the gymnasium. Say again?
Are some of the walls movable in there? Like,
They asked, do we have movable walls, Greg? I don't think so, but
No, we don't have movable walls at this time in there.
you want to advance up. This is just an outlay of the outside. This is one aesthetic look. Again, we're looking at pricing very closely, so this may change to something a little less pricey. But at this moment in time, this is what we had settled on. But, you know, money is real. And so this is another look at the same school, front of the school. This is a little bit more of an aerial of what it would look like. This pond has actually been moved over to this side of the property now because of soil borings and actual engineers being out on the site, getting ready to do real work, and just not be conceptual. This would be the back, this would be the front of the school, this would be the back of the school. And this is where the real stormwater pond is going to be, over here on this side.
How many acres that property is? It's huge.
It seems like it, but it's not as big as you would think. It's, Greg, can you remember exactly what the site is?
Thomas, I don't remember off the top of my head how many acres it is. I can tell you it's a narrow site. It actually impacts the layout of some of the classrooms in there because the site's fairly narrow. It doesn't seem like it, but with the layout of the building, it starts to cramp us a little bit.
It's 20, low 20s.
I'll, when I'm done here, I'll, text that question to, Travis Woods. He may even be listening. We're not live. Okay. I'll text him that, and he'll text me that answer.
He'll be able to, that off the top of his head, Thomas.
Probably so. If not, he's got something on his phone he can find it real quick.
Yep.
All right, so that's Palaca site.
Tom, is it wetlands, any of it?
Greg, the question is any of it wet? I think that back there is wet, and as a matter of fact, didn't we just, call for additional?
Yes, they are verifying, yep, they've identified a couple of areas and are checking them. And that is the reason the stormwater pond got moved. The site slopes more toward where the pond is now, and we were anticipating wetlands, the architect anticipating wetlands over there, so we shifted things around.
Well,
So is the problem now, I mean, in the existing school being kind of here, the front end of the property, if you ever drove on that site, all you had to do was drive around to the back side of the property, and it was always a bit low and a bit wet. Is that what the problems are?
Yes, they're on the south side of the site there.
Where the stormwater is being moved to.
Right.
There's a stormwater ditch of some sort right there.
Yep, on what I would call the southwest corner there, and then toward the back, the southeast corner back there too. You see the new ponds back there. That's the adjacent property to the south there. There actually is a little wet area, actually a very wet area just across the fence there.
Thomas, Mr. Hunter has
My,
it.
my question wasn't about wet, it was about wetlands, declared wetlands by the zoning, the state and county zoning, are they declared wetlands?
Are they declared wetlands, Greg?
That is what the study's for now, to determine if they are and what the extent of them are.
Well, this county maps will show you where the wetlands are.
Greg, he's saying county maps will show you where the wetlands are.
I understand, but we have to get engineers out there to verify too, to actually locate them, so we know exactly where they are when we're negotiating the size of the stormwater pond and stuff.
I was more concerned about permits.
18.03 acres.
Sir?
I was more concerned about permitting.
Oh, okay. Permitting.
Thank you.
Mr.
And,
Paul, that's
go down-
18.03 acres.
18.
18.03 is what's listed.
I thought it was below 20. All right, go down to 21. And permitting is, Greg, we should be getting close to that. Let me see if I can find it here. Oh, go back to, yeah, right, he was asking about permitting.
Because of the wetlands.
Yes.
So, August, in October, we should be submitting all of that. Do you see that timeline moving up any, Greg, when we're submitting all of this for water management?
I do not see it, I don't see it pushing forward right now. Let me talk to Casper and verify exactly where they are with it.
It's in time.
All right, so let's look at the Crescent City site. Greg, you want to talk about where we are in the process here?
We are Crescent City, the pre-K to 6 school.
Pre-K 6, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We are headed toward design development on that one. We have got, schematics have been done, looked at, approved. They're taken care of. We are diligently headed toward, design development. We've run into a little bit of issue there. To be honest, our surveyor is behind. He is out there. He was working he owes us the survey Friday of next week. He is Stephen Speaks is his name. He's a local surveyor that we are utilizing, and he's making up ground best he can, but he owes us a survey next week. So once we get that, we will be able to finish up design development documents and move forward.
Okay. Looks like groundbreaking here will be about March of 24. And all of these schools are scheduled to move in summer of 25. But what I've told Greg about this particular school and the one in Palaca, since they are not, the two Bond elementary schools aren't occupied campuses, I want them to push forward and push hard as fast as they can. So when people start getting tax bills for this, they can see something tangible, and know exactly where their money is going. And they all understand that. Greg, do you have any comment to any of that?
No, other than we've talked to the contractors, construction managers about this, and they're in agreement. That is very doable.
Mr. Foley, got a quick question on this site, since it's a large site, 63 acres, and you mentioned possibly somewhere in the future moving your transportation depot away from the high school and over to this site. Are they kind of taking that into consideration for the designing?
Actually, we are. Go down one slide. Okay, so this is yeah, right here. And it actually, this is a little bit more to scale. I don't know if you fixed this slide or I'm thinking about something else. But our property line runs right down Huntington. If you took Huntington on around, you run into Middleton Burney, the existing elementary school down here. And if you take Union, you run right up to the high school up in here. So it kind of intersects between those two roads right here on this corner. But our property runs all the way back, kind of about midway through where this lake is, and back on up, and then back here. The school will be oriented towards the front. The front will be facing Union Avenue, towards the front part of it, what I call the front part of the property. Okay.
Mr. Bowling,
Yes, ma'am.
when are the tax bills going, when's this bond going to appear on the tax bills?
It's already in your trim notes.
I didn't see it on my.
What's
bill.
mine?
Right there,
It's on
but-
mine.
Yeah. It's not separate, it's called local school, right?
Oh, it's on local-
It has
okay.
increased
It's on-
under
it's
local
on our
school.
agenda.
It's 35% increase in our tax.
All right, so, to answer the question about the bus depot, this square, that's kind of, just the dotted line back here is potential for, a future bus depot. There's not a lot involved in relocating a bus depot. There's some concrete, we need to relocate, fuel tank, mechanic lift, but there's not a whole lot to it. But to the school site itself, we can stack quite a bit of traffic off of Union Avenue and Huntington Road onto the property just because we have the space. And this is the layout of the school.
So is, what I'm understanding is say, there should be no backup on either Union Avenue or 308. This is such a big site. When we're loading them, bringing kids in and taking them out, either with buses or with parents, is that correct?
That's correct. And the buses are both the buses, and which side is the buses coming on again, Greg? I have a hard time. Go to that next slide, actually. The next
The
slide.
bus, the west side there, to the left, upper left, that's the bus entrance.
Okay.
Up top, toes, one word, right there.
So that would be off of
That's all, that's all.
Union Avenue.
And they did increase it
Is that right?
from the
I
original.
think so. How many cars are we stacking on there now, Greg? Do you remember?
It should be on one of the drawings there. We calculated it, and actually, if we had some discussion about it, we've got more than we asked for, but if we need more, we can always add more there. So there's plenty of opportunity, like the gentleman said, just.
What we originally had, I think, we did add
We added, well, we
Yep.
got the numbers from.
of what's going through Middleton Burney right now, right? Just so we can make sure we can stack it all onto the campus.
Because right now in Middleton Burney,
This is a mess.
yes, they go all the way down almost to the lake.
Yes.
And they don't really stack anything. You just got that one little loop.
I had a couple of people call me, I haven't been principal down there in eons, because cars are blocking their
We did a car
driveway.
count, we have done a couple of car counts, so we did
Yeah,
go here.
that was the reason for my question.
Oh, yeah.
Don't recreate it.
The beauty of where Middleton Burney is you got that, I don't know, third lane right there that you can actually pull off the side of the curb. You don't have to, unless you're gonna widen Union Avenue or 308, you don't have a pull-off spot.
so.
Well, that's why you stack the cars on campus. Like,
You're gonna stack them on
they
campus?
come in,
Yeah.
and you have
Yeah.
enough to
Okay.
stack them all off
I got
the
you.
road.
We're
Okay.
talking about
Yeah.
these lanes.
If you need some of the school in St. Johns County, they loop them.
Okay, I just understood you had that
Yeah.
little lane right there to the curb on
To
308
get them
now
off of
currently.
the road, that's the purpose, yeah.
So this is the administrative, this is the media center, this is the cafeteria. The major stuff is towards the front of this particular school. And then the classroom areas are back here. And then this would be a gymnasium here.
Question for you.
Yes.
Just, I don't know. We're building two brand-new elementary schools. Why are we changing the layout? Why not duplicate the layout? And this is, like, the gymnasium is totally separated from the classrooms. This is a totally different layout than Black A we just saw.
Right, and the gymnasium is separate in that particular school build too. I'll go back and show you. But yeah, they are different. The cafeteria is on the back side of the other one, where it's up front here. But the short answer is we have two different architects.
Okay.
In the property side.
It is. But essentially, they are identical as far as student stations are concerned.
How about fencing on a site this big?
As-
Are you fencing the whole site, or are you just fencing it around the buildings themselves for student safety?
I think there may be some existing fencing out there, but I would think that we would take into account student safety first, and just get, I would want to encompass our bus depot. Can you go back to maybe this one? Shows a little bit more of the property. I would definitely want to run fencing at least back to here and make sure we're separated from the trees and the pond.
We may have a plan.
Did you,
Yeah, I was-
did you think about
Yeah.
fencing already?
Yes, yes. We do it in layers. Typically, the perimeter of the property is fenced. That will be easier at the Black school than it will be here. We will determine with the fence line, with the tree lines and everything, where exactly, but there will be a perimeter of fence around it. And then as you close in on the building, the specific courtyards between the wings will be fenced also. So there's different layers of security as you get closer to the building.
But, you would think a natural place would be right here where this tree line runs and staying away from that pond back there. Okay. So this is kind of the way it looks back then. Again, this will probably change more than once and cost will drive everything. At one point in time, we were heavy on aesthetics. Now we're heavy on where we can actually save some money. This is the back side of the school. That would be the gymnasium here. Huntington Road would be running this way.
And the transportation building, is that on the back?
So yes, it would be back here.
Okay.
But it's
Near
separate.
that tree line?
Yes.
Okay.
If Thomas gets his way.
Right, well, I know without this.
Yeah, we're master planning the bus garage out back, and it will connect to the bus loop. It won't tie into anything else there, as far as the cars and stuff.
All right, that is it. Do you have any questions? Greg will hang around for a few, and I'll answer anything I can answer.
I have a question. So I saw in there where you had the design costs and that part is coming up as far as making sure that the design is in. So I know we mentioned like safety and the fences and things like that. I know that we have like a design advisory committee or committees for each school. So are they part of this part, like what's included in the design that he does and what would they do as far what?
Miss McDaniel and Mr. Kelly actually met about that, and aren't you going to present?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why I'm here tonight, and we'll talk a
Okay.
little bit about some of the things, but, there are some decisions, and as you see, things are changing. before we can even meet, I mean, there comes, we have to have a starting point, and while we're still in this phase, that was not the starting point for the design advisory committee. Is more, like interior spaces, things that are a little bit more feasible and controlled, that we can make those decisions about. And Mr. Kelly and I, talked about, and I'll tell you some of those things.
So the total amount is included in his budget? Like, y'all will have a budget to go by as far as what you're gonna do with interior design?
And is it, just understand, it's my committee, it is not, and policy, we are a committee for, just suggestions and,
Okay.
yeah, so it may not be feasible. These are
Okay.
ideas, this is what we would like.
Yeah.
But, so.
There'll be an allowance for each particular line item, right, Greg?
Yes, but they are a committee set up more like your committee. They won't actually be paid to design anything. We've got furniture budgets, we got interior design as part of the overall budget, so we'll be working with them, making sure we got everything they want. And just so you know, we've met with district level administrative people for the curriculum. We've been meeting with district level people with the security. So, I mean, there's a lot of parts and moving pieces here that we're working with.
Mr. Dr. Tom has one.
Yes, sir.
I really have two, one's for Greg. So you talked about the high school, which is not in our purview. And it started out costing $50 million, and it's estimated now to be 90.
Yeah, I think the earlier was 67.
67.
Yes.
And now what's qualitative, not specifically qualitative, but the differences between that high school and one of these elementary schools?
Greg, you want to take that? Yeah, the question is, what's the difference between the two? I know the phasing is still there.
I mean, the things that determine the cost.
Size.
Yeah, you got, yeah, there's more amenities with the high school. We've got the full-blown gym, all the CTE spaces, all of those. So there's a lot more to take into account with the high school that runs the price up as opposed to a pre-K to 6 school.
And if I can ask you, Greg,
Yeah.
when I was putting together the cost summary, which we'll talk about a little bit later, I noticed that Casper is the architect of one school, and CRA is the design manager, which I think I understand, two architects but one design manager, which is great. But we've already paid Casper a lot of money, and we're paying a little bit now to CRA. What's the difference in the scope of those contracts?
He's asking about the scope of contracts between, and I think the best way to attack that particular question, I hate to use the word attack, answer that particular question would be to describe your function as design manager and how that compares to the architect. And then those are why they're two separate contracts.
But they are the architect for one of the schools.
Yes.
It's just that Casper
Yeah.
must be way ahead, because they've gotten a lot more money.
Casper's
got almost $500,000.
Yeah.
And
Well, they are ahead for a couple reasons. The special facilities school, that money was not released until the first half of that money until July of this past July, when it was passed in the last session, and the money was released to school budgets in July.
For bond money?
No. I'm talking about the high
Bond
school.
money, we have paid $500,000 from Casper,
Okay.
from the bond money.
Casper, that site has not changed since day one. We started at the same time with Miller Miller Middle School being the site for Crescent City School, and then we had to put that on hold.
So we waited on the CRA.
That's why it's
I
behind.
think that's
Exactly right with that.
that makes sense.
Any more questions for Greg or Mr. Bowley?
Can we get this presentation emailed to us?
Do you want Greg on for Sarah Jean's part?
That's, I don't know what shared you
Greg,
can say,
did you-
so that's up to y'all.
Can you
Yeah.
hang on?
Should.
If so.
I just didn't know I wanted to go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna have you go ahead and go.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Okay. Right, so, thank you for having me and for letting me kind of see how your committee has run a couple of times I've been here. This will give me great information to take to the Design Advisory Committee. Again, we are over giving input, suggestions, and you'll see, so the members of each Design Advisory Committee for the three schools, we have Crescent City Elementary, Palaca Area Elementary A, and Crescent City Junior Senior High School. We put out forms, and actually we had to kind of beg some people to make even committees of 12. So each area we did have 12, but it was very important for all of us to have representatives, all the stakeholders represented. We had a lot of staff members that were interested, of course. They all wanted to have a say in what their classrooms are going to look like or what kind of bathrooms we're going to have. But that is not a very impartial committee. When you want parents, you want students, you want community members. So we did get that 12 members, and there's one committee that has 13 on there because there's just one person without just stay on that committee. So it is made up of all the stakeholders here. The 12, I have the asterisks by the district staff. None of the district staff makes up those 12 committee members. We will be here, we will kind of oversee it, so we did not choose the district staff to make up that 12. We will guide it, have our opinions too, talk about that, but we do not make up those 12. So the purpose, just recommend that age-appropriate design concepts. We have students on our committee, which I think is very cool. We have 5th through 12th grade. So our elementary schools, we have 5th and 6th graders that will give inputs. We have boys, we have girls. We want, this is what we're doing this for, is for our kids. We really want them to have a say in their schools that are being built. We have their parents coming, and of course teachers that range from all grade levels. So we have primary teachers, we have new teachers, we have experienced teachers that really have a good concept of what they have at their schools now, what is working, what isn't. We will meet regularly with the architects, and Greg has been great so far, and we've kind of talked about some things, and we have even tabled some things, even in our discussions, because they are decisions that can be made by the Design Advisory Committee. For example, we have our classrooms, and they're all laid out, but inside of that classroom, you have a planning space, you have a bathroom, you have the student space, and we were sitting here kind of grappling about, okay, should we make the storage or planning, teacher planning, it's a different room. Should we make it a little smaller and the student space bigger? That is something we're going to take to this committee. What would you like to see in your classrooms? What would be best for you? That is not a decision that we felt we needed to make right now. We didn't have to make that decision. So things like that. So should we make the square footage smaller in this planning? Because it kind of turns into a closet sometimes. Where do we want this space used? So that's just an example of something that we will all kind of talk about. And then present to the school board in regular meetings our report. And I know Mr. Dollar and I are doing some of those presentations coming up. So our first meeting will be, Greg, I have not gotten, I first had October 12th down for that, but I'm going to have to move to the next week because I did find out that is the Panther Prowl and Homecoming, and I don't think we need to compete with that on the 12th. So we will have it the next week if that works out with your schedule. So our initial meeting will go into that Monday is what I'm looking at, the Monday of the following week.
Okay, just email me and I'm good.
Okay, I still don't have my phone, so that's why I haven't texted you that date. That's a whole nother story. So, this is exciting for me. I got to visit Baker County. And what Mr. Bowling showed you was drawings, and you might conceive that, and you might get a visual of that. I do not. I want to see the real thing, because I cannot even comprehend what square footage looks like at all. Maybe that's just me, but I got to go see Legacy Elementary School in Baker County, and what I want you to know is they have the same, almost the same layout as the Crescent City Elementary School has. Now, I wish I would have thought about a presentation while I was there. I was just kind of snapping pictures to kind of come back and show people, or I would have taken a lot more pictures and gotten some other areas. But when I came back for our leadership team and for others that could not be there, there were just some really exciting spaces that I wanted to capture, or for them to see, but I didn't capture everything. So this is the front porch of the school, and this is the team that went, and Miss Holly Pickens from the school board went with us, and Jonathan was there, so anytime you would like to say anything, please do. We went together, and Travis Weaver is in the back there, so there were some safety things that he could visually see at this school, and
Travis is our director of safety and
yes,
security, so.
and even some suggestions that he gave to this school, that they're like, oh, we didn't think about that. So that was,
Is this the school that Bosley built that was delayed getting open? Is that the school, Greg?
No, that is not this school. This school was built by Barry McCall in McLennan.
Okay.
The architect was CRA, though, right?
Yes, we were the architects on that one.
So this is your front office when you walk in. It is not a very large space, but it's a very safe space for the students, for the staff here. Of course, there's a single point of entrance, and so this is the superintendent of Baker County, Ms. Sherry Rollerson. She was a great hostess for us, but to her right, there is a bathroom. So when you walk into the school, your visitors do not have access to your school at all. If they need to use the restroom, it's right here before you can get past any of these, this safety glass in the space there. If there's not a reason to come into the school, we will not have people.
Now, I call the front office what's on the other side of that glass, and I call that more of a
Reception area.
On the reception area, yeah.
Well, if I'm looking for the front office, that's what I'm walking into. So
Well,
I call it.
I'm just saying, that's not the whole front office.
That is not the whole front office. But when I enter a school, I enter the front office, and that's what I'm entering. So this is just another space in the office, the front office that Mr. Bowling calls front office. This is in the back behind the front desk. Here, there were just several storage areas, and those of you that have been in schools, a lot of times you take classrooms for this. A lot of there's a lot of space in these schools. Now that's positive in two ways. I think if we do have to start saving space, this may be a space that we save square footage, because we really need space for the students and the staff. So these are two different hallways. You'll see one is much wider than the other. On your left, it is a classroom hallway where the classrooms are, and this is the main hall, one of the main hallways on the right. You'll see the yellow in one side. This is another design advisory committee discussion at Legacy Elementary. Every hallway was color coded for safety, for visitors. They have the blue hallway, the green hallway, the red hallway. So everything leading to that hallway, the doors, they have one wall on that hallway is a color.
In this main hallway, it's how wide?
Do you know, Greg, how wide that main hallway is?
It is 12 foot or so.
It was, it was very, to me, you know, when I'm looking at school hallways and you have kids going back and forth. So what you're looking at here is, I believe this is the library to your left. And it comes off of the front office. So there's that, one of these doors is the exit from the front office. And directly across is the media center here. And we'll see some more pictures of that. This is right behind the front office. And this is the focal point from all other hallways. So when Mr. Rowling showed you all of the classrooms, you had the front office and then all the classrooms kind of shot off the side here. All hallways lead to this area, the back of the front office. So this will be your focal point here. All children, staff come this way. They had rolling announcements on the screen, but everything leads to this central part here. I took a picture of this because I was just amazed about this. This was a food warmer, but it was a two-way food warmer. So they could load it on this side, and cafeteria ladies on the other side they don't have to go back to the kitchen. The whole kitchen is actually closed off, so the students don't have to, you know, they don't see what's going on back here, but they load here, and the ladies on the line, it was just so easy. And so I just had to take a picture of this for Nikki Hawthorne, and she said, we already have some of those. So I was amazed at this, but we do have those here. So this is the cafeteria. This is huge. Yes, so cafeteria. So this is huge. If you'll see, I have another picture. I am standing on the stage taking this picture. You can't really differentiate here because the flooring is the same. Again, if you've been in a school, you have the tile usually on the floor, and then your stage is the wooden.
You can see the upper curtain.
You can see the upper curtain, and you see that line at the edge. Right. That's the edge of the stage. So that is on the stage looking toward the kitchen. And there are actually two bathrooms, a female bathroom, male bathroom on this side. And there were 6 or 8 stalls, I believe, Greg, in each of those bathrooms.
Yes.
So your students would not have to exit the cafeteria to go to the bathrooms.
Helpful during hurricane shelter.
Yes, there will be.
We were right there, we only have like 2. So
room there. As this is set up here, these tables are set up as one-sided tables, just ideas. Again, these are decisions that we have kind of talked about. They're set up as one-sided tables, they can be put together, but if you've ever been in a school cafeteria to set them up like this, it would be a lot more calm. You're not fighting with the person across from you, you're not taking their food, you're not making faces. So this is a lot of space. There are also storage areas inside here where they had other chairs that can be set up, but these are also make benches. So like the back could come up, and we could make a bench type seating here for visitors also. So just a lot of different ideas like that. This is one of the play areas. This is directly behind the school. This will be behind like our 5th grade, 6th grade hallways, and there's a covered port. You can see the shade. There's a covered area and more of the play equipment that goes out. There are also, this is between 2 hallways, and this is our special needs playground here, and this is right off of the cafeteria. So you see the extra seating outside also. So this is between 2 of the hallways here.
Is there no covering for weather? They don't have any.
There was here, but there's a large covering here, but every space is not covered. Now we do have some of our schools now, some of the shade.
Right.
So those could be moved and are portable, but you know, every space is not covered, and so more heat. I would think, you know, we have a lot of the shades. You know, any inclement weather that's dangerous, we would not have kids, you know, outside. This is the media center here. It was a beautiful, you know, just brand new media center. When you walk in, it's just a lot of exciting spaces, and this just made it more real when we went here. And we have requested to go and tour a school that Casper has built. So Greg's gonna help us set that up. So here's Jonathan taking a little siesta here on the couch, but just all of the furniture. And so it's really important, you know, we want the beautiful buildings, we want them safe, but we also, when we open this up, we want them to be a school that our students are proud of, that our teachers are proud of, and that our community is, because we have their support, we have their trust, building this with bond money. So we want to just not skip anything going into the design also. So it was a great trip, and Sherry is wonderful, and she bought everything out there. So that's also a luxury. She's sharing her ideas with us, and we can ask her, what would you have done different, or why did you do this? And some of the spaces that we saw, they took a wall out in the middle, and it was a wonderful room where kids could come in and do activities, or staff development room, just a lot of great spaces.
What about security cameras?
There was security cameras all through. Again, I wish I would have thought about what I was taking pictures for. Also, badge entry systems for the staff that coming in, so they went on all the entry.
Did they use the design committee as well?
I bet Sherry Rollerson picked everything
Okay, I'll
she
take it.
wanted.
There's a lot of committees over there.
Just curious.
Sherry, name that school sheet.
Okay. Oh.
Those rockers out front, I'm quite sure she bought herself a Cracker Barrel.
Yeah, she did. She wanted a Cracker Barrel, and she sits right when we pulled up.
Yeah.
She was sitting in the rocking chair, and
I have a quick question.
You have to meet her.
yeah.
Right, on these elementary schools, I mean, when we grew up, probably most of us, our schools, even in Florida, you could open the windows. So if the air conditioning went down, at least you can get some airflow. Do any of these schools, any of these windows, are they functional, or they just look good?
They do open.
Some of them open, most of them will not open though.
But our safety has changed a lot since we were in school.
Correct.
So the height of the windows, the coverings of the windows.
While we were at Baker County, Legacy Elementary, our safety and security guy, Travis, he actually messed with them. And the ones in the hallways, they partially open, kind of
Just
like
a
your
little-
hotels.
Right.
Like partially open.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of the same concept as what they have too.
Are they covered for hurricane shelter? Don't they have to be covered? Or they come with the glasses hurricane proof?
Yeah, probably.
Did it?
Well, we'll hurricane-proof our cafeteria, and we had
Yes.
that conversation today about the Palatka site.
Okay.
Just saying, you know, even if for some reason the Kelly Smith Special Needs Shelter isn't functioning, we have a backup there that it could be converted to not just a hurricane shelter for general population, but also a special needs shelter. But when we look at this school, and I didn't go on this particular trip, I went on another, but safety was one of the main things I had in my mind when I was looking at the outside. I didn't like any of, they had too many windows out front, and they didn't have the ballistic covering on them. And, right, they're too low, and we've already made adjustments in our designs to not have that phenomenon. I just don't like someone to be able to drop a kid off and then run up there and shoot through a window.
Also with the, you mentioned the cameras, so we're making a pretty large investment to retrofit our current buildings with new cameras that will be moved to these schools. So they're transferable
And this is all outside of.
yeah, that's being paid for with district dollars now.
I see that design, both these elementary schools have metal roof, and they're not flat. All right.
We don't have any flat roofs, do we, Greg?
No, all of these are floating metal roofs.
Right.
Nice.
The difference in our visits, I do want to say, when they visited, them were not students in the school, right? So
And they were still taking things
They
out
were
of the
still,
box.
so we walked through with students in the room. So that's a very different view of a classroom when you have 20, 25 bodies in this room. It looks really big until you get 25 fifth graders in there sometimes, so.
You have a picture of this building as you drive up?
I do not, we could probably get one,
On their website.
yeah, Legacy Elementary School. Did you have a?
I have a comment and a question, one for you. I know in St. John's County, my daughter's a teacher there, and since you're talking about security or safety, the teacher can, with their, and on the neck, they can shut down the entire school with a few pushes, about every lock in the school goes down. Is that kind of standard for schools these days?
That is not standard. We have looked into that. We, some of the places we go, we actually have a safety and security conference.
Have we started talking about, security, systems in terms of lockdowns? Have we gotten that far in the weeds with the new schools yet?
We have had conversations about it, and that is the intent, to have, lockdown button switches in each classroom.
Some type, right, we just.
Yes.
So they will be in the classrooms. I didn't know that answer. I know now every teacher has access to their phone and they can call lockdown inside the classrooms. And I will tell you, that is not standard everywhere. There are so many places that I do talk that the teachers can't call a lockdown. So we are a little bit ahead just having that in our classrooms.
Mine was just.
And that, let me reiterate, that's a conversation we've had. That's very expensive technology, so we may come back and say that you end up having to call. We're still having conversations there.
This is very helpful because now I know what your committee does. So that brings a question for Greg. How do we do design reviews of the type that's talking about, which are reviewing the design, the status of design? How do we actually do formal design reviews? Are there minutes taken? And who does them, and are there minutes taken? Who's responsible for them?
District staff and Greg, you want to talk about that and just talk about the different types of things? But Sarah Jean mentioned earlier that curriculum is at the table some days you're sitting around with IT, sometimes it's safety and security. It just depends on what we're looking at. It's a massive page flip.
That's exactly right. And another area that hasn't been mentioned that eventually we will get to is furniture. That's a whole nother level of design that we will be looking at there for the different grade levels. So it's all encompassing, and it's a lot of meetings.
But I understand that, but at some time, is there a formal, like 90% design review or 100% design review that before it gets submitted to the county commission, it has been reviewed and documented that it meets the requirements?
Right now, we do not have that set up. If that is something the district wants, we can certainly do that, but we don't have anything that formalized set up at this time that I'm aware of.
Well, it's formal. It's formal in the fact that the appropriate people are at the table, and
right.
And so when we're talking about a classroom space, if I'm talking about a kindergarten classroom space, I want Ms. McDaniel and elementary principal at the table, someone who's done it lately, and to help make those decisions, and 4 or 5 other curriculum people as well. So. But if I'm talking about, IT systems, then, you just don't want someone making all those decisions without local input. But, I mean, everything from our maintenance people saying, we don't like training, and I heard this today, we don't like train AC systems for whatever reason, because they don't like the technical support or whatever, are there other choices available? But they're the ones who would have to fix them. They're the ones who, have to maintain them. So they're the experts that are on our dime, and they're at the table helping us make, decisions.
Yeah.
I was kind of following up on the comments earlier. Is there a time in which the school board hears this design has been reviewed, I'm responsible for the review, and here are the results? Is that something that Greg's company does, or who does that?
Typically, we would sit down at the end of design development, at the end of construction document, and if we wanted as formal as they sign off on it, we have done that before. But the way we've been doing it is we've been meeting I've been taking some meeting minutes, but we haven't submitted them to anybody or anything. Typically, the drawings, we start revising drawings, our red line drawings, and the next meeting, we bring the revisions to the drawings in and look at them.
That's getting in the weeds a bit for the board.
No, the board just needs to know that it has been done and someone's responsible.
Do we need to know the cost expenditures, since it's all part of bond? The cost of the furniture? What are we looking at different? Will we get a
Yeah,
report on that?
when we start selecting furniture and stuff, we will have the cost and everything. We will bid it out, we'll have the packages, so all that will be available when we get to that point, yeah.
We'll recommend, and you'll be like, no, that's just.
That's what I'm
So,
recommending,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, Mike,
That's all I want to see.
Anything else?
That was great, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the presentation, both of you.
Greg, I think you can go to bed now.
That's great.
Thank you. God be good.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. That's a lot of good information. Everybody take a breath. Now we gotta talk about money.
Just to reinforce that we will get these summaries each meeting in the future.
Yes.
And the financial, we'll talk about that later.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jonathan, you awake? Yeah. I know that we have another discussion last meeting about the bonds and how that went and it's done, and some discussion about expenditures we've had so far. Anything new or surprises or?
Right now, I know this fiscal year, we're at, 447,000, once I get the right report up.
Make copies of it?
What is going on? So, I'm just gonna see this right here. Let me get the exact dollar amount. So, this fiscal year, we've got 447,000 in expenditures, leaving 102,020,000 left. I know 62,000 of that in expenditures is actually not expenditures, it's coming back to us. There is a whole fraud check situation where we got the money back from someone up in New Jersey. We got the money back, so that, is coming back, so it was, yeah.
Don't rush over that.
Okay. I'm gonna slow down on it a little bit.
Pay attention, Jerry.
So, we made a $60,000 payment. A guy from another state took the check from the people it was sent to, forged it, we reported it to the bank, got the money back. So we got the money back. We sent out another check, they got it, that's why it's duplicated right now.
How the heck did they get the check?
Hmm?
How the heck did they get the
Still,
check?
They
still
took
on
it in
the
the
mail.
mail, take it right out of the
Okay.
mail.
Happens all
What
the
does
time.
that do?
Yeah, they get stolen. in the night.
So of the
Washington's
400,
paid too, and
So we don't
Yep.
know that.
so of the 447,000 spent this year, take 62 off of that. Alright, so that gives us, that's 385.
I'm sorry, do we have what you're reading?
No, I just printed these out today.
Okay.
Can we
So,
go that again, because I did a summary of everything we were presented as of June 30th. And I get.
So this is not as of June 30th. This is this year. This is this fiscal year. Since your last report, so, I believe one of the things when y'all, that I received that y'all had today was this, where is this?
spreadsheet.
Yeah, the spreadsheet.
Yeah,
This is as of June 30th.
right.
What I'm speaking of right now is since then.
Since it, thank you, that clarifies it.
And when are we gonna get that? That, we should have a copy of that to go over.
Actually, she did just ask if she wanted me to make copies. If you wanna run and make copies of these two pages real quick,
Thank you.
this is a report reflecting everything.
To be honest with those financial reports aren't of any value. You just had to spend hours, as Wayne noted in the last meeting, you had to spend hours going through them. Which is why we prepared a one-page
This is
summary.
a two-page, and really only one page. Go ahead and make copies.
Yeah, we can have.
And that way, if you do come up with questions, because on that report, there's about 3 actual lines. It's very small.
Actual
Yeah, it's very
expenses.
Yeah, but even the report we had last time is almost unintelligible because it's in financial language for people who do the books, debits and credits and transfers and all that stuff. The question, that's why I did this summary, which shows just exactly what the total is and how much we've spent derived from it. It took a couple hours to do it. And we just can't do it in these meetings because those reports are financial reports for financial people.
It looks nothing like
Right,
that.
right.
I mean, well, I mean,
Isn't that what you're talking
it
about?
does,
Expenditure
it
report?
looks a little
Yeah.
bit like that, but
From a
it's
financial
not
program.
that much.
Right.
Like, all of this down here is not on that.
Right, that's
It's
coming
just-
off of your software program, correct?
Correct, yeah.
But we had to interpret those to get where the expenditures were, was my point.
Yeah, we need simple.
And
One page.
I did, and I did a simple one, and I hope it can be checked, and also someone can replicate it and update it.
And you actually, you looked at this, these numbers were right.
Yes, so
Yeah.
I did review the prior year.
Yep.
Everything I'm speaking on you today is stuff I've looked at in the past, probably 2 to 3 days,
Good.
because,
That's good.
Rhonda's out of town, like you said. So,
Yeah.
we'll go ahead and give you a copy of that. It is, again, it's very short and simple, there's not a lot on it. If you want me to explain each thing on there to the best that I can, I will, to, better, I guess, help you understand what it's showing. But as far as that spreadsheet going forward, I don't see an issue why we couldn't have one updated. Probably as of the 30th of the prior month of future meetings. So, I mean, we've got a simple layout, we can probably do one up as well on our end and go from there.
That'd be great.
I just want to say for everybody here, we haven't met in essentially 2 months. I am disappointed that we're being presented numbers and things, and we don't have something in front of us. And I understand somebody's on vacation, but it's not a surprise that this was coming.
The only reason this,
It's
as
the
of
whole
this year,
purpose of our
the only reason this as of this year was presented is because when Rhonda first looked at the information you provided, she said those numbers are wrong. And she wanted to print a current year report to show update. Outside of that, it wouldn't have been here, to my knowledge.
I'm sorry.
As of the report that would y'all put in there,
We didn't put a report in anything. We didn't.
this spreadsheet was.
I prepared a summary and
Oh,
sent it
I
to all of
created
you.
this one. Oh, so then you made this.
I interpreted
So
all the
we-
data we
but
had up
still
until
didn't
July.
get anything for 2 months worth of data.
I didn't have it either, you're right.
But I think, Jonathan, I think you're gonna find there's only 3 expenses.
Yeah, it's a
So
few
it's-
expenses, it's like, wow.
And I think, and we'll talk about the next meeting, because I think in December, that's when we're gonna start seeing big numbers.
You're gonna start seeing,
Well,
over the next 6 months, you're probably gonna start seeing a lot
We
more.
are talking about these design costs, I mean, we're paying $17,000, which is still on me, as well as Casper. And those are reflected in these numbers you just got.
Well, I haven't seen these yet.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So if you just stay on first page, it'll be, I can explain the 3 lines real quick.
Okay.
So we have basically spent about, $2 million.
The correct total is right here, 1 second. It's like 2,020,000
That sounds right, yeah. To this point.
to this point, yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Because the only costs we're incurring are the architects and maybe the construction manager charging us already. Could be.
I will not, I don't want to answer that because I'm not up to date on that.
Okay, I'd like to keep it.
So the 3 expenses on here, can you just go through those real quick?
So if you look, right near the top, you'll see on the far left side, it says 631, capitalized building and fixed equipment. And then you go 3 columns over to the right, up under fiscal year-to-date amount expenditures, it says 35,286.68. That's one expenditure. You go down midway through the page, in the same 631 capitalized building and fixed equipment, that says 371,700. The reason those are separated is because the top one is under Department of Maintenance and Facilities. The middle one, that is 371,000, is up under the new PK to 6 Crescent City School. And then a little bit below that, you see the Again, 631, capitalized building and fixed equipment, 40,250, and that is under the Placa PK6 school.
All right, so here's the question that I need answered. The money that we got for the bonds is supposed to be specifically for schools, period. Why is the first 35,000 not under one of these two schools?
I would have to look and see what the actual charge is.
Okay.
So if,
Because one of our jobs is to make sure none of this money goes to anything except these schools.
and I would lean towards, that would probably have something to do with the work being done on this side, but I can't tell you for sure. If you actually, because I know you sent me an email, with Ashley earlier, if you want to send that as a follow-up question, I'll look into it tomorrow.
When Rhonda was here, she was talking, because she had not had individual general ledger accounts set up for the individual school projects, and she had told us that she was dumping those expenditures under maintenance and facilities
Right, but now there's,
category,
now
yes.
there are two line items, so they need to be moved or explained.
Correct, exactly.
Okay.
I just want to reinforce what you said, Jared. It's very hard to interpret. A lot of this was accounting of the funds that were spent before we got the bond and how do we do, bringing that all forward. That's not, in my mind, not terribly important to this committee, but it is important to know where the money was spent. And for instance, what it was spent for.
And I think when, as we discussed a second ago, we start doing something like this, where we can do regular meeting,
Yeah.
hopefully that'll satisfy.
I think that's important.
And I think, and you and I, we can get together between meetings and make sure, we just want to make sure that the layperson that comes in that has never seen any of this can understand it. And we're supposed to.
I can tell you, these are complex.
That's the public that we're supposed to be representing.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay.
Because I think you as chairman should actually know before we have this meeting.
Right.
So you gave your finance.
So just, I'm not saying what the 35,000 is for, but looking at last year's report and finance terms, and looking at what you put together, I'm showing under Placa School, 438K, you're showing on yours is Kaiser Architects.
Yeah.
I'm showing under, the Crescent City School of 647,000 as a real estate purchase. And then on last year's, we also have 487,000 under Department of Maintenance and Facilities. So everything else that is not Kaiser or real estate is under maintenance and facilities. So just to give you an idea, but we will
Still
still,
didn't have the line items.
yeah,
It
we'll
was
still,
all- it was
we'll
all
still
there in
be
the
doing.
previous reports, just started.
But, Mr. Chairman, they're specifically just to make sure that there will be a follow-up item on the 35,286,68.
Yes, yeah, we'll, again, just send me an email tonight or tomorrow and we'll get together. If you want to wait till Rhonda gets back, she'll be back Monday.
Just bring us a
That's up to
current
you.
on the summary each time.
Yeah, and that's, I
Where the
think,
money actually went.
yeah, I think that, to put it in simpler terms for you guys, I think that will be a good idea.
Does the committee care, Mr. Chairman, about which school it goes to? Do you think that is important? Okay. Right.
Well, I was gonna say, we break it out in our system anyways,
Yeah,
as the report we just gave you. So ultimately, it may even be easier for us to just leave it that way.
Yeah, so break it out.
Yeah. I mean, the more detailed it's understandable, the better.
But the bond acquisition funds, though, can't be attributed to a school. The $416,000 went to pay for the bonds. The process of getting the bonds, we paid out of the bond funds, and they obviously are a general thing, not a,
Well, it's not even that, it just comes out of the proceeds of the bonds.
no, that's two different things.
I wanna,
We got the proceeds of the bonds, which I was gonna ask you about, since you know about that. And then we paid an additional $416,000 out of our pocketbook, out of our checking account, for people associated with the bond acquisition.
so just to clarify something, I stated it's under Department of Maintenance and Facilities, but if you look at the very, very, very top line on the left-hand side, it says 30523, new elementary schools, bond. Everything on this sheet is in a project directly related to the bonds. The cost center is just whether maybe Greg came here. that, I mean, I don't think we're gonna get that nitty gritty with it as far as how we report in our system, but whether my cost center is 0006. If there's a charge under here under 006, as long as it's under that 30523 new elementary schools bonds, it's towards the bonds.
Still the bonds, good.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I was gonna ask you, just to be clear, the committee understands this, and I was surprised at it. I'd like next time to hear from the people who actually dealt with the bonds. A couple questions. We did spend almost $500,000 beyond the bond companies. That we, the county, we, the school district, wrote checks to individuals, companies, for whatever they did to help us with the bonds. Jerry probably understands what's reasonable and what's not. I personally don't know what's reasonable, but, do we, so, I guess my point is, it's really important for the public to know that we paid almost $3 million, well, $2.5 million to get the bonds. It cost us that much. And that was two pieces, the bonding companies, the underwriters, and those folks, and then the actual checks we wrote to help people who helped us.
Attorneys and the like.
Yeah, whatever, but I don't know if the school board was aware of the cost, they probably were, because I'm sure they were
It's
disclosed.
typically, it's underwriting cost. It could be anywhere from 1% to 4 or 5%.
Well, the underwriting costs came out of the bond
This
acquisition.
is all part of the bond, of the underwriting cost. Getting your ratings, getting your
Right.
attorney, that's all
Yeah,
underwriting
that all-
costs.
That all makes sense. What do we actually pay interest and principal back on, par value or the proceed value?
The par value.
Par value, good.
That's what's due back, is the 99 point something. I don't know where that
Well,
is.
I personally, next meeting, would like to hear more from people who were in the bond process to understand what the attorneys did, for example.
That, I don't know that that's in our purview.
Why would it not be?
I mean, we didn't talk about the schools. I mean, we can certainly have somebody come in. I just don't, I'm not gonna nitpick what the attorney did. This is all typical for a bond underwriting.
I'd sure like to have someone, because we've got to do this 2 more times.
Are you referencing a district staff member come in and explain? Or like
No, the
someone from the?
PFM.
Probably,
PFM.
and they're gonna charge us for showing up.
Right.
They will, but I'm personally not satisfied that.
Our lead bond attorney is Bob Gain, and he may be the most qualified person. I would probably get him on a Zoom call, to zoom in for one of those meetings.
Might be a little cheaper.
And he could explain what he did for the money?
Yes.
It was 140,000.
Right.
If that's the board's desire.
The board would have to decide. I'm personally curious as to these side costs that go with the bonds, beyond the underwriting and all that, which is understandable.
Like, it's all part of the underwriting. That's my point.
Even when we paid, why didn't it come out of proceeds then?
That's how it works. The 106 million gross receipts was what Wells Fargo paid, because they took the whole issue. Then you had expenses, and then these other expenses were probably billed after we received the proceeds.
Right, they were billed to us as a school board to pay separately, which we did.
Right.
Right.
It's all part of the underwriting.
I understand
So
that.
do we have to look at this like, okay, so it was for a $100 million bond, correct?
99.
Just-
Well, because it went for a premium, we got the 106 million.
104.
It's 104,
Yeah.
right, deducted. So, on the flip side, we could look at it by saying, well, because this group of attorneys and ratings and everything, what they did, they actually got us more money.
The market did that.
No.
These people
The
didn't do
market
that.
No, that's not true. The getting rated helps our cost tremendously.
For the
If we went to
underwriting.
this without a rating,
Right.
we would probably be paying 7%.
Yeah, you have to do a rating. But my
Well, we
belief-
did get more than the 100 million. We got it as a
That
premium.
has to do with if someone issues a bond, and I think the cost was 4.1 or something.
Right.
If they want 4.5% tax-free, they're willing to pay a little bit more for that, because if they take 3.5%, then they may have a gain on their bond, and that's gonna be taxable. They don't want that. They want all tax-free as much as possible, so they're willing to pay extra to get the higher interest rate.
That's what I was hoping you could explain to us. It's basically just lowering the interest rate.
Right.
So you can't think of it as extra free money, it's just negotiated deal.
And I know the questions that I've been having lately, and I can't explain a lot about the finance part, but what percentage of what we're doing as far as this whole project is going for administration and what percentage is going towards the actual,
Brick and mortar.
yes, the brick and mortar. You know, that's really a big concern because, you know, their taxes are gonna go up.
And I don't know that we'll have that until we get the final,
We get the guaranteed maximum.
yeah, maximum price on
And that's one of the things
contracts.
you referenced earlier, when you brought up the concern about construction. We can go ahead and do the construction because we go ahead and get the price on it, but they don't give us the guaranteed max price until a certain point in the whole process. And that's basically saying this is the top dollar it's gonna be.
So how far out are we talking about?
That's December, I think.
December,
January
January?
5th for one school and March something for the other.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Thomas would be the better on that.
And that will list all your expenses from administrative to as detailed as.
Well, will it? Or just list the cost of the school?
It will if we want it. I mean,
That's-
they're gonna
that's-
give us a
that's-
price,
that's
but
the point.
they've got all the details if we want.
Yeah, we should keep our summaries current, we'll know, we know how much we spent already
Yeah,
on
and just,
administration.
you know, because I guess part of that conversation that I had with one person, they brought it to my attention. Well, then you're gonna need to go out and look. How can people in Putnam County who ranks number 12 as the poorest, one of the poorest counties in the state afford a lot of this? See, that's a lot of their questions now.
Well, because they voted to do it.
Right. It's not,
Right.
the county couldn't afford it, they had to go get a
But now, the
bond.
person that, you know, a couple of the people that I talked to, they didn't vote for it, number one, okay, because of their
It
tax.
passed.
Right, but it did pass. Okay. But I know that seems to be a real concern right now, is that they're gonna be taxed and taxed and taxed again.
Yeah, you nailed it.
It passed.
Pardon me?
You nailed it. They are gonna be taxed and taxed and taxed again. And about
But
one.
incomes are not going up and up and up and up.
1/4 of the registered voters are who voted, and 52% of the actual ones that wanted to come out and vote, voted for the bond. So the ones that didn't vote, they can complain that they didn't get out and vote, and now, so now they're gonna be taxed.
No,
because
those
they
that,
didn't vote.
that I talked to, they did vote, but they didn't vote yes.
But the majority of Putnam County registered voters.
Right, I mean, and I know
turn out
that's
and
the only
vote.
way that it
And they're
passed.
they're gonna find out that they should have.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
we were told 2 or 3 times ago that the money, as soon as we received it, would go into an interest-bearing fund. Has that transfer been made, and it is an interest-bearing fund?
To my knowledge, there is money in our, I don't know how much, but we have put money into, with our investment advisors.
Right.
Again, if you wanna take note and send us an email, I haven't been on that site yet. I do believe I have the login, but I might just wait till Rhonda gets back and have her show me how to access that information, and we can get you that information.
So it's about $1/3 of $1 million a month.
Well, and there's also a limit to how much we can earn on
Yeah,
that
you-
money
right.
to keep it tax-free.
As long as it's less, she explained it, as long as it's less than the cost of the bond, it's okay.
I think it's a percentage.
Yeah, it's probably the statute somewhere. Amy?
Yes, I have a question about the cost of the schools. We have $102 million to do 2 complete builds, and nobody's gonna tell us how much it costs until January and March. How are we, and everybody's saying that it's gonna cost more than $1 million to build a school. So how are we going to build the schools if we don't have enough money?
We've all asked this question a couple of times. One is,
Well,
yeah, you answer it, I'm not answering.
so it's a complex question, and I'm gonna throw you some hypotheticals out there as well. Okay, so, if we had been able to ask for, if we had a crystal ball and we knew what the economy was going to do, and no one does, but say we did, and we wanted to build 6 brand-new luxurious schools, and we estimated that amount of money, If it had been, say, 500 million, we still wouldn't have asked for 500 million. 300 million was about the max we thought we could ask for taxpayers. And at the time, 300 million did 6 brand new schools. And now, so we are here and we have to grapple with what you're saying. So honestly, the scope, something has to give. So in my mind, the scope of the projects has to change. So right now, we have the projects that are currently under works, and they're being worked on. We have schools that have good buildings, good bones, and I can name a few for you. Crescent City Junior Senior High School isn't one of them. Everything there is being replaced. But the 2 schools that are on the very back end, Browning Pierce Elementary in East Palatka and Interlochen Elementary in Interlochen, those are the 2 schools that are scheduled to be done last. Several of those buildings will stay in play. In the next round, Melrose Elementary School has several buildings that will stay in play. So the scope of those projects will be different, considerably different. You're not talking about brand new construction and a whole lot of demolition. A lot of it will be complete remodels and rebuilds, which is allowable. I mean, that's that's not kind of, that's the way the bond was written. So we can do that. Either you do that, you look to find a way to get it done within the means that you have, or you find another funding source, whatever that is. I mean, if you want to go back to the public and say, let's do this again, you can lead that charge. I'm not in a hurry to do that. I mean, this is uncomfortable enough for my taste. And we're doing the very best we can with what we have.
So the problem that I have is I got my trim notice. I see the increase in taxes.
Right.
Somebody who has a more expensive house than me said their taxes went up $400 because of the bond. And when people voted to pay these higher taxes, they were told that they would get 6 new schools. So if they're not getting 6 new schools, does the school district still get all of that money? How is that fair? How can you take the money? I mean, the taxpayers don't have a choice now whether they're going to pay the money, but the school district has a choice whether they're not going to build 6 new schools. So when people ask us, hey, we're not getting what we thought we were paying for, what do we do?
So that's a very good question and a very fair question. So here's what we do, in my opinion, and this is the school board, people that are elected officials, and it's all of them because the superintendent is there too. But you asked that question, do we want to continue on with the project? Now, when we set out on this work, we knew that our buildings were tied for the second oldest in the state. That's a fact. That's a factual statement. And we were hemorrhaging money. There's a lot of reasons why we undertook this work, and those things haven't gone anywhere. And we do need schools. There's no getting around that. They don't last forever. Nothing does. So if we need to change the scope on the back end, I think that might be a more viable solution because, I mean, it has to be done. Whether you say the taxpayers made the decision that it needs to be done or not, I'm telling you as a person who lives it every day, we have to have new schools. Nothing lasts forever, and they are getting very, very old.
Right.
That's not.
I don't remember exactly what the verbiage was when we voted, but I want to say.
I can bring it in.
The presentations are probably still online.
They are.
I think it's good for us to see that, to refresh our memory. And when we speak to the public, because I'm going by what everybody says, I'm taking all this because I don't remember, I have to see it. But you said there was a part in here that made for some adjustments. There was some verbiage in there. The average person isn't gonna
That
take
wasn't
that.
part of the presentation to the public.
See,
And there was a presentation at the Viking Center. And at that presentation, who was it that said it? Superintendent. He said that 300 million probably isn't going to cover all of it because of this, and this, interest rates going up, or whatever the reason was. So that was before the vote.
So we knew that.
So we still, but that wasn't, that was a small group of people. That was not discussed with everyone. Why did we go ahead with it if it wasn't going to be enough?
I don't remember,
wanna
I really don't remember that particular statement, and I'm not a politician, I'm not a board, and if you ask me a question, if I got the answer, I'm gonna give it to you like I believe it to be true. I don't remember that being said, and I think at the time, we were still under the impression, because here's why. Here's what I remember, what I personally recall. When we first set out on this work, and we did the estimations, it was enough to comfortably, $50 million was enough to build a new elementary school with the size elementary schools we had in mind.
It ought to be.
And you go back to the original, I mean, when we rolled this out, we called the newspaper and we said we're having a big board workshop. We want all hands on board, and then we rolled this idea out for the first time to the board. It was reported in the newspaper, and then we went from there, and then we started on the road show. We went to and spoke in front of anyone who would have us. As much as we could, and we saturated the airwaves with as much information. So we didn't keep anything a secret. But the original plan, there was enough for $50 million was enough for 6 new schools and remodeling Q.R. Roberts with inflation, projected inflation built in, and comfortably. And so that's why that was put out there. Now, no one expected COVID and the world's economy to do what it did. No one. No one can predict that, and all we can do is the best we can with what we have today, and be as transparent as we can. And as, the question was brought up about Baker County and their school. Their superintendent didn't do a bond oversight committee or anything else. She just built her school and kept everything closed vest in-house and mum's the word, and do what most politicians do. But I mean, my boss said, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna be transparent with it, and we're gonna take the lumps that go along with it. So that's why we're here.
And I just want to echo something he said a second ago. You asked if we knew it wasn't going to be enough, why did we continue with it? Just as he said a few minutes ago, you go out to the schools, you see we need it. So in my mind, even if we would have approached this originally saying, hey, 300 million for 4 schools, in my mind, we still need it. It's just, it wasn't the plan. The plan was 6 schools and renovating Q.R. Roberts.
By the way, I don't know if Dr. Sarnes has said that he did run for the hills. He's got a sick granddaughter, and he's taking care of some family stuff right now.
But the problem that I have is the promise was made, taxpayers can't do anything about it. You're gonna take the 300 million. No matter what you build, even if you don't build anything, you're still gonna take the money. But six new schools were promised, so.
Right, so
I wanna hold government accountable to give us what we're paying for. And is there a way that you can, not take any tax money? Can you stop the increase on our trim notices? If we decide to scrap the whole idea because we can't get what we voted for, is there a way to stop it now?
That would,
Now,
I don't know, but legally, I'm sure it would take some kind of.
That's gonna cost more money.
Well, here's the thing, that the money that's been drawn down has been drawn down, and the projects that are in the works are in the works. Okay, so that's this first pull down. If you're talking about what we do for rounds 2 or rounds 3, those are decisions that we can make as we go along. And I've already said that in my mind, I think the best solution is to adjust the scope of the later rounds, and it's not adjusting it that much. You just need to choose your sites carefully, and then you take extravagance out, and build the buildings like Melrose, the next one, there's several good buildings there in the second round. I mean.
Yes, I agree.
And and some of the buildings that we were going to, you know, that are right there on the edge that we were thinking about demolishing and building brand new construction. We won't now. You know, everything is about making the money that we have available work. And we're working hard to come up with a plan for the subsequent rounds as well. But in the here and now, we're doing the best we can with this round.
So I understand, I agree that not everything in Melrose should be knocked down. But the people who, in Melrose, who voted thinking that they were gonna get a brand-new school in Melrose, what do you say to them? When you say, oh, sorry.
You're gonna get a refurb.
We're still taking your tax money, but we're just gonna fix it up a little bit. I agree that it should just be fixed up a little bit. The old, nice-looking buildings should stay and it should be renovated. But other people didn't agree to that. They were expecting a brand-new school and now they don't get one.
So what is your suggestion?
Maybe the school board needs to come out to Melrose and have a workshop, town hall, to hear what the residents' concerns are. There's no need to, you don't have to put it in anybody's face that this is what you voted for, it clearly right here, and nowhere in here does it say you're getting 6 schools. But I think it's important for the school board to come out and allow the residents to air the grievances. There's some accountability on all ends, but we all agree that I feel like the project needs to continue.
I do
think
too,
it's
but I
going to
mean, in the
cost more
first line,
money.
it says renovation is day to day.
One thought, you know, I mean, us looking at the Bradford School, it's beautiful, there's no question about it. The color-coded walkways and the huge cafetorium and, you know, but maybe since we're on this budget crunch, maybe those are some of the things we need to scale back on. Maybe we don't need the color coordinated, I mean, we don't know. I mean, that color coordinated hallways could cost another $400,000.
I think that's a very little.
So we gotta paint it some color.
You know?
That's some color,
On that note,
painting
he
it
did
one color or
mention-
another.
He did mention earlier with the rising costs that they're cutting corners where they can, so.
I heard that.
JR?
Listen, we can debate this all night.
Yep.
We got to run this thing in for a landing. The voters voted for it. Our task is to go out there and try to make this thing happen. We don't know what the school's gonna cost yet. We're all in speculation mode sitting here still. Until that number comes out of maximum, do not exceed, we're all just speculating. We don't know. I mean, nobody, not to defend Mr. Bowen, none of us knew the construction cost was gonna rise 40% since they started this. It's way up. I mean, you got a lot of dollars in construction costs has increased. I mean, concrete, this goes up to 15th this month, almost $100 a yard.
We didn't know we were gonna have to buy a new school site.
Right, and there's a lot of unknowns. I mean, we still don't even know what the school costs, so I mean, we can sit here and debate all night, but we don't have enough money. Nobody knows till you come up with the final thing. I mean, I'm disappointed that we're not gonna be able to build schools for 2,000 student stations at each one of these, because our county's on the cusp of growth. We're gonna have to take that into account somewhere in the longest path. But that's not what we're set out here today to do. Our today to sit here to do is make sure the bond money is spent in the correct way. And we're way down in the weed that there's nothing we can do. I mean, we've got to push this thing forward and get to a crossroad, and at the end of this crossroad, we're going to make a decision. I don't think there's a decision that any of us can today intelligently make until we know in January what that maximum do not cost or maximum not to exceed number is. I mean, we're not even there yet. That number may come back and surprise us. It may be $60 million. Who knows?
Does the school board get that, they get that number before we do, don't they?
Yes.
They get that and review all that before we ever see that.
First of all, really, as a matter of fact, I would appeal to the facts. We don't deal with it. We don't know what the schools are going to cost at all. We know we can build 5 schools or 12 schools. So that, for the record, we don't know until we get these estimates, what they're going to cost. So I think we should deliberate and talk with members of the community about that. We just don't know. We suspect, but we don't know. But secondly, Ashley gave us a presentation early on that said the cost to the taxpayer is based on the following. And it was quite good. But my question is, where Amy was coming from, did it include an interest rate comparable with what we actually got?
Yes, it was higher.
It's higher, good, thank you. And did it include the current trim notices, are they based on just the first $100 million? And are they consistent with what that is?
The trim notice is only based on what we've received. Mr. Ryder.
Does that, it seemed to me like your presentation said, it was, when it's all said and done, it's about 10% of taxes increase. And what I'm hearing is it's more than that already.
The school district part of your taxes went up between 30 and 45%. Your total tax bill may go down, but your school board portion is such a small piece of your tax bill.
Got it, okay.
I've seen people talk about this 30, 40, 50% increase.
That's a good point.
The dollar amount is $100, $200, $300. It's not thousands of dollars per person, and that's where people are getting, you can make numbers play with your head.
Water use percentages, the percentages lie.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's a very important thing for us
Yeah,
to know,
it's-
that the original projections we made back whenever they were about the cost of this bond issue and the associated payback costs are still in line with what we did for the trim notice.
Yes, that's correct.
And if we could characterize that, I guess that presentation in line.
So I will say, one of the things that Jonathan and I did today, in working with the tax collector's office, there will be an insert that comes with the bill that leads folks back to our site. And Jonathan is going to we're going to visualize a sample tax bill and show folks exactly where in that bill they can figure what percentage is regular school costs for living in a democratic society and what is bond, right? There are school costs that they were gonna get anyway.
Right.
And so while it may not show it there specifically out of that, because it just doesn't, we're going to come up with a way to help folks do that. We also will have my phone number, email. They will be able to call us and we will talk through any person. We've offered that many a time already. I cannot tell you how many times we say, bring us your taxes, sit down with us. Rhonda has offered it over and over again. Typically, when we've had those individual conversations, people leave going, okay, I didn't realize that. They're not sure what that tax bill actually means. And certainly, it's just on the portion for right now. So we are going to do our very best to continue to educate folks to know what it is and what their actual cost is at this point, and we'll do so continually.
But
So,
don't we as a committee, aside from the report we kind of summarized, don't we owe to the public saying what that real answer is for the cost of these bond construction schools has increased the taxes so-and-so? Just based on what you're saying.
yes, but it is so different for every person depending on.
No.
Yeah. Oh, you mean just an overall?
You have to get it perfect, yeah, overall, like you did
Yeah.
with your presentation, average tax per.
Sure.
And that's our responsibility, is to convey how much they really spent.
And
As
that
opposed to-
table's still on the website, and it's still accurate.
People I tell too don't.
Dude, are you talking about the table where Rhonda broke it by $100,000? Yes. So yeah, that's still out there.
Let me ask you, would it be simpler to put, because I mean, you could do an amortization calculator online. Why could you not get the IT department to build a thing that you put your taxable value of your home in there, you push it in, and it'll tell
We
you?
do have, our website design team is working on that still, but
okay.
it took a little more coding than I thought it was going to
Yes, ma'am.
take. So they have not finished it, and we have to get back and run it to see if what they've done so far even matches what her numbers and what it looks like. But yes, there are lots of different ways.
But what statement can we make in our written report about that to the taxpayers? What Jared said to me is fine, it seems to be on course and.
I think if they knew that the numbers are matching what we told them before, would be helpful.
Yeah.
But we haven't changed the table online. If we can confirm that, have Rhonda share that, hey, that's exactly where it is landing.
I was gonna say the only real change we can make to that table is do the true percentage, because.
Because we have that now.
Because it was a better percentage.
kinda lower.
And that's gonna
Most
be.
people
really
don't-
gonna confuse
Has
most
it been
people don't know what
updated?
Jared just said.
The
No, it
table
will
said
be a
50
better-
million
it'll
on the
be a
first
better
year, but
amount.
it's actually 100 million cost of the first year.
Yeah, I mean,
Right,
so we
so
can update
And
any,
people don't realize that, they're just looking at first year.
Yeah, but most of the people that are worried about the tax bill aren't really sure even in there how much.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, what is that school amount? What does that entail, that school amount? They're looking at that and thinking, that wasn't there before and now it is.
Why is the bond not listed separately from
That
other
isn't a
local school
decision,
taxes?
that's not our decision on what's listed on the tax bill, that comes from the tax collector's office, so I have no idea how they'll do
Tax
that.
collectors.
I don't know.
Property appraiser.
Oh, by the way, the cost this calendar year to us, to this school district, is approximately zero if the money's invested at about the same rate. Because the bulk of the money's gonna get earning interest. So I don't know what's in your calculator, but it's not as bad a story as I'm hearing around.
Right.
town.
And that's
It's a pretty good story.
Education usually,
I mean, I don't know that they're gonna offset our tax levy by the amount of interest they're pulling.
no, we're still gonna pay the taxes.
Yeah, I was gonna
We may
say.
pay the bonds off faster. That's essentially what'll happen.
That's fine too.
And that'll be, and then it stops showing.
I'm going back what the JR said, we're speculating, we just gotta wait.
All right.
We'll have a good meeting in January.
Yep, we're gonna put this topic to bed. We talked about the trim notice a little bit. I have mine in front of me if you wanna look at how it impacts your taxes. It's really, I mean, dollar wise, it's not outrageous. Like JR said, the percentages people put online, it raises your eyebrows. A couple of quick items. October 31st, we've been asked to do a presentation at the new Rotary Club. Because of the sunshine laws, I will do that with Ms. McCool and Ms. McDaniel. And then
That's on trick or treat night.
it's a noon meeting.
It's the regular new meeting for the Rotary Club.
They don't skip meetings for trick or treat. Going too old, I'm sorry.
How does that work if we're members
We just can't talk about it
to each other?
to each other. Yeah.
Now, to be transparent on that, I did talk to the publisher of the paper, and she's gonna have a reporter there, I thought that would be important.
Did you get to do the presentation?
No. You have.
Then on November 7th, we're still on the agenda for the school board. So we're required to do at least one report to the school board every year. We thought it would be nice to just go ahead and do that, and leads me to what was in your packet, the write-up. So Dr. Hunter did the kind of summary of what we've done so far. It's a couple pages. If you read over it, I don't think there's any major changes that would need to be made, but the idea is that Dr. Hunter, from the last meeting, Dr. Hunter would do this. Amy volunteered to just kind of look at it, and if we want to put it on a PowerPoint of some sort, if you want to work on that still, so just.
Too old for PowerPoint.
Okay. Or, but the idea is,
That's good.
this will be part of the presentation to the school board and Rotary, and then obviously Ms. McCool and Ms. McDaniel on the design. The issue with any of these presentations right now, we just ran into, is we don't know yet. We're gonna end up getting a lot more questions than we can answer, but that's just life at this point, I guess. I think it's important that our next meeting, the calendar, third Wednesday of November is Thanksgiving week. I don't think that makes any sense. The third week in December, we're getting close to Christmas. I know we had a long break between meetings this time. Do we want to delay our next meeting to January? Is that too? I don't think there's gonna be there's no activity.
That's kind of, I mean, until we,
We're
we're gonna sit here and do a speculation meeting until you got some real true hard data facts. I mean, I don't know why you don't push it off to the
And January.
middle of January anyway.
Yeah,
because
so
it's-
construction is supposed to start, so we should have something a little bit less,
Well, I think, Mr. Baldwin, I don't mean to misspeak, but wasn't there something about, there's one maximum do not exceed, was that on the high school in January, or is that on the elementary school in January? Was the maximum not exceed March on elementary schools?
It's January 5th. Crescent
Yeah.
City is March.
Okay. I knew there was one with the high school.
First of the year.
So, I mean, at least we'll have an idea what the first school is gonna cost by January.
Mr. Chairman, just one point though. There are some things we can say that this summary doesn't say, because we didn't draw conclusions about much. That's just kind of what we get. One conclusion, though, that I think we could reach, particularly if you spend some time looking at it, is that the bond acquisition process was reasonable. I mean, that's a conclusion, but you're the most qualified person to speak to, but that's a possible conclusion.
Right.
The other ones, when I looked at the real estate purchase, and that seemed to be reasonable.
Right.
And now there are other things that we could probably conclude from what we've seen so far. And where we have doubts, I have doubts about the method of management. We haven't reached any conclusions on that.
Right.
But I would say, hopefully, that somehow we can get no more than 5 to 10 points of things that we feel about what we've seen so far.
And, I mean, I don't know if you've read the summary, but those points are in here. I can just expound on them as we speak. But the school board meeting on the 7th, I don't see why we can't all, I mean, it's a public meeting anyway.
Right.
And we're on the agenda, so anybody that wants to come.
November.
And I'm assuming that's a 3 o'clock?
3:30.
3:30? So anyone that can attend, if you'd like to attend, that would be
Do
great.
we have anything in writing, any facts other than word of mouth about plan proposed would include construction of 6 elementary schools?
I would have to reword that to the original plan. And yet, can't state that as
Right.
fact.
Good point, yeah.
Yes. So I will reread this probably 10 or 12 times.
I just don't want them to put, we're already gonna have a lot of questions.
Yes.
Amy's gonna work it out.
Any suggestions, of course, you can't email them to me, but
Well,
actually,
your
our
points are
email
very
is there
good,
in-house, but
But to put some positive news
Yes.
out there.
Things that we all feel and know about.
Right.
well, I think one of the big things they need to know is how many times we've met and how much
I
time
was
we've
about to
spent.
say, I
here.
think some of
This
the
is-
positive is the work of, I think part of it is sharing what you have accomplished as a committee. And initial work in any committee takes a lot of back and forth and coming together. You spend a lot of time figuring out what your purpose was, highlighting the amount of time you've provided and given and research. I think that would be, one of the most important points to start off with, Jerry. And I'm happy to do the PowerPoint for you if you give me the information.
I think one of the handicaps that we're working under here, though, is you gotta remember, and from my world, most people are visual. A lot of things we've done, we don't have visuals. We have a lot of numbers and facts and plans.
Well, I think that's Mr. Bowling's point of, I think it was him, or Greg.
Push it along.
Yeah, get something going so people can see some progress, whether it's knocking down a building across the street from my house or whatever. Do something.
Blow it up.
I thought
They
about-
tried-
Mayor's
they did
office
that.
did that for you, Jared.
Oh, my gosh.
I thought a lot of what Ashley said, but in fact, I've had many committees reporting to me. And when they talk about their meetings and what they did, that's all process.
Right,
I usually ask for results.
right. And
You might summarize your process in a few statements, but then tell me what you've accomplished as a group.
What'd you
And
do?
that's what we're gonna get after. And I think we have accomplished some things, as well as met, which we should discuss. But I couldn't look at what I wrote there and pull out the accomplishments, although I knew there were some. And I was afraid my view wasn't proper anyway, and we'd wait for Jared to
So
see that.
what did we decide about January?
so January 17th is the third Wednesday? Same time, 6 o'clock? It's your birthday?
Hey,
I'm gonna be 29.
Yours?
Amy,
It's your
mine
birthday,
too,
Yeah, I knew his birthday was around there.
mine too.
Well,
He's gonna be 29 also.
I guess
No,
we're gonna have
far
a
from
cake.
And they have to bring it because it's their birthday.
Absolutely.
My birthday is the day after the meeting.
Okay,
November.
yeah,
In
no.
November.
We're all January babies, let's just have a big party.
November. I'm
No,
November.
she's November, though. I think
But-
November meeting.
We've asked for monthly reports, 3 of them, one for each school, and a financial.
Yes,
Can we get those interactions? Can you actually send them to us?
I
I
think we,
can.
Yeah.
and I think Greg would
Because
probably,
Greg will create that for like current, and
Right.
then Jonathan and Rhonda can help me with the financial report and get it to you with the follow-up documents from this meeting.
yeah, there's no reason we can't get that stuff in between.
It's okay to look at it.
I think we need to, yes, ma'am.
I just want to say to everybody on this committee that it is an honor to sit by everybody's side and iron out these things. And I love that at the end of the evening, we have the residents, the constituents' interest at heart. It has remained the top of our agenda.
Right.
So
For sure.
Very well said.
Very well said.
That's what we're here to do.
That's what Capricorn is.
We're one of them too.
No.
I have a question.
Yes.
About our presentation to the school board. What is it exactly that you want me to do?
I think
Because-
Ashley,
I will put together the PowerPoint if Jared gets me the pieces, and then I could, in fact, when he's done with it, if you're okay with it, I could send it out individually to folks, and if they want to provide me feedback, I can provide that to you or however, I don't care.
Yes.
we want to let you off the hook.
Yeah, well, no, I just want to know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, because I didn't.
Go on hold now,
Uh-huh.
but anybody, when you read over that two-page of Dr. Hunter did, any suggestions on things to add, delete?
Send them to me.
Yeah, send them to Ashley so we can get it together before the Rotary and the school district.
We have to recognize, it's not a group process. Jared has to decide what ultimately goes in there.
Well, and, I mean, Ashley
He
and I
can
met
read
before.
the feedback, and then he'll make a
So we're
decision.
confident in that.
Yeah, I mean, we need to, we'll get it done. Anything else? Do we have any public comment? I don't think we have anybody sneaking in.
Well, if you saw the thing up there, it includes remodeling. It's not just pure construction.
The only thing, it didn't have a number of schools, that was the other.
Where would be the site selection for Black to be? Has that ever been discussed? I'm just kind of curious.
We're playing around with a couple different sites.
Okay.
Right.
I know y'all do.
Kelly Smith, Mosley, just the existing schools.
Right
We're
on.
not- we're not-
It kind of ran through my mind the other day thinking, you know, Kelly Smith, that puts two schools within,
Right on top of each other.
right on top of each other. I know this, I know Dr. Cerncy mentioned y'all bought some property out around Kelly Smith, and that puts both those schools on the west side of Black and almost in the same neighborhood.
There's a lot of reasons why not to have it over there. And, some point I'll talk to you about some of the reasons too. There's pros and cons with
Sure.
every site we have.
And didn't the property you just bought, wasn't that also for parking or traffic or something? That's it. It's just overrun.
Motion to adjourn.
Yes,
Mr.
thank you.
Chairman.
I heard a few seconds. If you agree, get up and leave.
Lots of seconds.